Hi, and welcome to MTC Slip, where we come together to talk about loss. So we were leaving my doctor's appointment, and there are some busy roads right around where they are. And on the other side of this field and some retention ponds and stuff, there is a medical complex and hospital and stuff. So when I looked across the field, it's fall, Midwest, there are Canadian geese. I saw a group of them. I was like, cool. Except there was a white one in the middle. And I'm like, wait a second. And I wanted to get a picture because I was like, that's crazy. And I could not get my phone to open fast enough. And my husband, being the sweetheart he is, virally goes on to the, busier street and comes back around in the complex just for me because he knew I was upset. And we get over there, and I didn't come from the optometrist. I wasn't coming from the psychologist. I could not find what I had seen. I swore I saw a white Canadian goose. I didn't even know if there were albino geese. I just wanted to get a picture. And I am looking desperately, so my husband doesn't think I'm nuts, all over the place. And I'm only seeing these darker ones looking for food and eating. And then I looked up just on a whim right before we rolled off because it was getting a little busier. And there, lo and behold, is the seagull that was just right in the middle of these geese eating. And I went, huh. I'm like, I am so glad he was there, first of all, because I swear I'm not crazy. And second of all, he was gone in like 5 seconds. I mean, it took us less than 30 seconds to get around to the other side. And I was like, man, he didn't hang out very long in that area, which, it makes sense that they're hanging out together. He's smart. He saw the Canadian geese. He's getting, they're getting food. So he's, good food source. They're, same type of bird, actually. If you didn't know, they're monogamous, both species. The same breeding type style grounds. They always return back to where they were hatched. Crazy similarities that you don't think about. But I just went, that makes sense. I guess it'd be kind of weird if he was in the, but then God drops on me. Of course he didn't stay there when he was uncomfortable. He's not with his own flock. And I was like, oh man. Because we're going through all this child loss right now. And that can be the loneliest thing. You can be in a group of people and you can just feel isolated. And I went, wow. And I had taken some classes in school on, different social sciences and known some statistics because I'm going, is this a big problem, this loneliness feeling after child loss? Thinking, are there others out there that are, is this all common? And with a quick search online, Psychology Today pulls through with a description of loneliness that just nailed it for me. I mean, what their interpretation here. Those feeling lonely at any age perceive others not listening to them, taking them seriously, or making eye contact and either explicitly or implicitly dismissing them. This perception, whether or not it is reflective of reality, reinforces feeling disconnected, dismissed, and uncomfortably isolated. And it was like, that's it. That is the description of loneliness after loss. And that's just what they're talking about in general. And then this was a huge, long article, and they did a great job. And there was a spot on there where, this is before the lockdowns too. And they were already calling it an epidemic. And then so many other people followed them, Cigna Health and Harvard. And that was, before everybody was isolated from each other. And it's just talking about the general populace. But then they started talking about the health issues that loneliness spurs on. And they said the staggering data has relevance because of its correlation with increased risk for early mortality, risk rates similar to those for obesity, smoking 15 cigarettes a day, Also, the findings relate to adverse health risks such as high systolic blood pressure, body mass index, and high density lipoprotein cholesterol levels. Depression and suicide are also cited. And it's so much worse when you start thinking about like how your brain works too. If you know anything about your brain likes to take parts that it's got and kind of, you know, it's like if you have a hammer, it has multiple jobs. Like your brain does the same thing. It has areas of neuron connections that it likes to use for other like tasks. So the Canadian researchers that they suggested had maybe found a link to loneliness in the brain. They're trying to figure out where does this loneliness center at in the brain. And they have an inclination that it's the same area where your memory center is, which just blows your mind, because then you start making the connection yourself going, well, we know that people in nursing homes and that are lonely and older, the dementia and Alzheimer's and all of these other problems, I mean, the rates and risk go up exponentially. We know that that's a problem. And then that's an easy link. And it's because you're sitting there replaying and rerunning situations by yourself. And in my opinion, you're wearing out that part of your brain. I mean, if you're doing, you know, that self-reflexive thinking about what happened and did I, you know, could I have said something, and you know, rerunning scenarios or even coming up with like things that didn't happen and playing that out, like you're going to wear out that part of your brain. I mean, just like, you know, part of the rug that everybody walks on. Eventually that it's going to need replaced, but we don't do that. So, I mean, that's just mind blowing. And with all of that, those surveys and articles, I mean, they're focused on the general populace. They're not thinking about the very specific details with child loss, as far as, you know, all the complication factors, the health factors, the family stuff that comes into play, and, you know, just some of that stuff, that the anger and depression that you could be going through. And no matter how lonely you feel, though, even if that's just draped on you and it's just suffocating, you can control it. There are steps to go over that. And I know it's harder to do than say. So what you need to do, an idea, is question if the people around you are just there, or if they're the source of your loneliness, and then know that you can control that, and we can walk through that. So the first thing that you might consider doing is getting introspective, but not like how we just talked about. We don't want to wear out that rug. So we're going to do something like journaling. And that lets you write that down one time, get through that situation, ask yourself, is that something that actually happened the way it did, or am I just blowing that out of the water a little bit? Was I having a bad day, or were they having a bad day? Is that relationship something that I want to, you know, I want to dismiss them because was that worth it? And if journaling, writing's not really like your thing, you can get introspective while you're doing an activity out and about. Go grab a cup of coffee. I mean, sit down and just think things through. You know, go for a walk, go to a class for, you know, yoga, do something relaxing, go fishing, something that helps you. And if that's not like your thing either, that's cool. I mean, you could do kind of what me and my husband do a little bit. You know, find your person, you know, find one person that you trust, that has good judgment, and run things past them. That's what we do all the time. Like, hey, you know, if we're not with each other, hey, this person said this happened. Did I blow this out of proportion? Did I misinterpret this situation? What do you think about this? And it's been great for us because it literally lets us bounce things off of each other and really reconsider what happened. And if you know something happened, I mean, you know what I know. And if they haven't said anything to you, they haven't been inviting you out, maybe you used to go shopping all the time and you haven't been shopping in 2 months, whatever, you can be the brave one. This is step 2. you could be the brave one and step out and call them or text them and go, hey, why don't we spend some time together? If this is a relationship you really value, why don't you make the first move? You can simply just pick up the phone, send them a message, call them, and go, let's go out. And then if, you know, it's been kind of a hot button topic, don't talk about your child loss for like just one trip, you know, one outing, you know, or a week or something. Give them a chance to relax a little bit around you, and maybe that'll allow them, maybe they waited for you to make the first move. Maybe they'll come up and say, I'm sorry, I know I did this. There's that chance. You're giving them that chance. And if that doesn't happen, if it's been too long, if it's just eating you up, be the one to initiate that conversation with them. Because if you really value that relationship, I mean, pursue them. And if they come back at you or you just are done, don't rely on just those people or that person to be the only one that makes you, that, you know, the only person in your life. I mean, you have to find a new flock sometimes if you need, you know, company. You know, go to a class or go to a club and start something new. Find more people. See if you can find your seagulls. You know, if you're figuring out that you've been in the middle of Canadian geese and they're just hanging out and they're not the same type of people for you, go to find some of your type of people. One of the things that we did with all of our child loss was we started going to Wednesday night groups at church, and it's been amazing. They have gender specific groups. So my husband goes to the guys and he gets to have guy time, and I get to go to the ladies and not do all the crazy stuff they do. And it's been great because we have this symbiotic kind of understanding in that kind of group where we're sharing. It's not just you sharing, like you are listening and helping someone else through what they've been through. And then I've got people that come up to me and check in with me just randomly. And sometimes it's exactly what I needed in the middle of a week that's been really rough. And it's just like, thanks, you know, because I don't have that in other places. And sometimes if you're really in the middle of it and it's really fresh, you might need a bereavement group. Our church has bereavement groups. The hospitals have bereavement groups. My OB even has bereavement groups, and you can find either some sort of class for that specifically, or you can seek something out similar to that if you need to. But whatever you do, whatever you end up with, you should maybe try to get out and do some of those groups anyways. But that way you're looking at, you know, is this something that I've created here, or is this something that I can get up and out of? You know, I've got some people in not even related specifically to child loss where, you know, sometimes that relationship's not going to come back. I mean, I've got somebody, I don't know what I did or said, but I saw them out in the store and I was like, oh, hey, it's really cool to see them. And I waved and said hello. And that person just blew right past me and made a face, and I have no idea. And I've seen them and I've said a few things to them, and it's just never very warm. And I don't know what happened, but they've made a decision to move on, and so I'm not going to hang on to it too much. So that's the kind of decision that you have to make too. And that's okay. I mean, you've got other options. You don't have to be lonely because you have control over that. And you just have to examine, are the people around me my Canadian geese, or are we in the same flock?